Totsugeki Fuuun Takeshijo is a milestone for me. This is the final game of 1987. And what a game to close out the year with. I had a small problem with Totsugeki Fuuun Takeshijo. While the game was never released in the US, the television program it was based on was shown overseas. So I have not one, but two official English localizations of that title. Takeshi's Castle, or Most Extreme Elimination Challenge. I went with Takeshi's Castle simply because that's what Takeshijo means. Also, not a lot of elimination in this game. The program was a game show hosted by Takeshi Kitano, and it had contestants run through elaborate obstacle courses. And the courses were set up so that contestants would fail in amusing ways. For the Famicom, Bandai made it the 8th Family Trainer game. The Family Trainer being the mat that was known as the Power Pad in the US, where you step on spots to control the action. It's the first licensed Family Trainer game, the only Family Trainer game to get a sequel, and the last Family Trainer game we're going to see for nearly a year. It's also Takeshi Kitano's third console game. The comedian who, shortly after this game's release, will become a director, was responsible for Takeshi no Chosenjo, and was in All Night Nippon Super Mario Bros. Beat Takeshi's got quite an 8-bit resume. The game has players competing in several events that come straight from the television show. On the main menu, you can choose to practice any single event, or you could try to take down Takeshi himself. Up to 6 players can compete, but it's always one at a time. When you start the full game, there's 4 castles available to you. You have to step on the pad number on the Family Trainer in order to select a castle. And you can't select the 4th and final castle until you've beaten at least 2 of the other ones. Naturally, they increase in difficulty with number. In the castle, you compete in all 8 events. Which means that if you're playing through all 3 castles, as you should, then you have to compete in 24 separate events before the final showdown with Takeshi. On all of the events, you have unlimited tries, but a time limit. And the more time you have left at the end, the greater your score is. There's also the commentators from the show who chime in on how you're doing. The order of events is randomized, so you won't necessarily get them in this order. The border wall is an event where you have to run at this wall, jump, and then scramble over the top of it. You have to stop and then jump, which winds up feeling a little bit awkward. Then to get over the top, you run in place on the middle 2 pads. Once you're on top, move forward a little bit to start sliding down, and then jump over the water at the end. At the Pond of the Divine Dragon, players have to hop from stone to stone. Some of the stones wobble when you land on them, so quickly hop to the next stone when you see that. You can go fast here, but I'd recommend taking your time and just hopping 1 row at a time. The Strait of Gibraltar is a suspension bridge with cannons firing at you. If you move fast, the bridge shakes and you could fall off. But you can press on the 2 pads in the middle front to duck down and wait for things to stop shaking. The quickest way across I found was to take a couple steps, duck, take a couple steps, duck, and repeat. It can take a long time for the bridge to stop shaking, and that prevents it from getting into that state. For beach boys and gals, you step onto this board and slide around. You have to duck to get under some barriers by pressing the pad in front of you, or jump over the pink things. Don't forget to jump off at the end too. The bridge across the battleground is one of the simpler ones. Run at the board, and if you hit it at the right speed, you stop at the end. Run too fast and you go off into the water. Go too slow and a monster pops up to knock you off. The Devil's House is a 5x5 set of rooms that you walk through, and your goal is to find the one door that leads out. Stepping on the left 2 pads in the middle row makes your character go left. Stepping on the right 2 pads in the middle row makes them go right, and you can also have them back up by stepping behind you. You have to run into a door for a little while in order to make it open. Some of the rooms have a monster who will move between one of the 3 doors, and naturally you have to avoid them. I found this one to be pretty annoying since there's 15 possible exits, and there's really only enough time to check 5 or 6 of them. The Wall to Freedom has you select one of 3 pathways through each wall. 2 are fake, 1 lets you run through. Some of the segments are guarded, and you just have to time your run around the guy. In all of the first 3 castles, the final event is always Escape to Freedom. For this one, you control a tank, and the controls are all around the pad. Number 1 and 4 rotate the tank, 2 and 3 are used to start it up, and 5 fires the gun. There aren't any enemies in the first 3 castles. You just have to navigate the tank to the end of the course in order to get a bonus that will be used in the final battle. Speaking of which, in that 4th and final castle, there's only one event, and it's the tank again. Your score from all of the events that you completed in the first 3 castles becomes your life points for the battle. And the first task is to get past Takeshi's minions. When you shoot them, they may drop an angel that replenishes your health, and if you make it all the way to the end of the course here, you face down Takeshi himself in his tank. Of all the Family Trainer games I've played so far, this is the one that feels like the most interesting game. The events are varied enough that it feels kind of neat, though I don't think the tank controls work really well. It's similar to the other athletic games we've seen on the Family Trainer, but it just feels like it's better done. That said, it's not really worth playing unless you're using something like the Family Trainer. Without it, it just doesn't quite capture the feeling of being on a wacky game show.